He comes into the team and he's like, listen, boys, you are off until April 18th. He's like, one, stay in shape, and two, don't get arrested. And that's basically, yeah. And
What a line, dude.
yeah.
2 things you gotta do.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 6 of Film Never Lies. I have my favorite guy coming on in a little bit, Jimmy Graham. We're going to get into that. This guy's the best, man. He's the most interesting man on planet Earth, a mentor to me, a great friend. But before we get to Jimmy, in the top 5. The top 5 gets a little electric. I get a little vulnerable at the number 1 spot. We'll go on to that. But let's start with a couple things that happened this weekend in the NFL. One of the big storylines is the Eagles and their loss to the Cowboys. And this is what I'll say. It's just flat out unacceptable. And there's so many things that have occurred in this game that I scratch my head over with this team. And first and foremost, we'll talk about the loss in itself. And it brought me back to, it would have been the season of 2014. We had lost a couple games early that we shouldn't have lost, so we ended up 12-4 that year. Green Bay lost a game late in the season to Buffalo that they should have never lost. And that gave us the tiebreaker over Green Bay to get the 1 seed. Fast forward, this is the infamous NFC Championship game. Green Bay came to Seattle, onside kick ordeal. We were down a bunch. We had the fake field goal. We won in overtime. And I used to always say, if that game was in Lambeau, which it should have been, but Green Bay messed up, we don't have that comeback. We don't go to the second Super Bowl. I don't know how the rest of the season is going to play out, but if you're at Philadelphia right now, you had a pretty clear-cut shot to get the 1 seed, play at home, et cetera, et cetera. It certainly looks like, again, we'll see how it all plays out, that if it comes down to you versus the Rams, you might have to travel across the country to L.A. instead of inviting the Rams up to Philly, which is a greasy, gross, great home environment. It's a big ordeal. But you talk about, let's get into the game now, and this is where it gets so strange to me. You come out, I'm watching the game with producer Rob beside me. I said, Philadelphia might win this by 100. A.J. Brown's cooking. We've all been waiting for this. Boom, touchdown. The ball's being thrown around extremely well. And I'm like, oh, God, the Cowboys defense once again letting them down. What is going on? You get a 21-point lead. Your defense is playing very well. We blow a 21-point lead? And the first question I go to is, what is going on with Saquon? Look at some of these runs here. This is crazy to me that we can't run the football. Okay, and again, it's obviously not 21-0 now, but you look at this. We get concaved. We're hitting the backfield. TFL. TFLs kill guys. Here we get stretch. We get no movement at the tight end position, a 2-yard gain. It was all day. Again, we get blown up at the guard position. We fight and fight and fight just to get back to the line of scrimmage. And then the turnovers happen. You feel for Saquon, ball on the outside arm. You hear me say it all the time. Saquon Barkley had 10 carries for 22 yards. That's a 2.2 yard per carry average. This man right here, Ken Patullo, I feel for him right now. He's under the gun. I get it. But come on, man. Your team is built. You have good offensive linemen. You have an unbelievable runner. Also, your quarterback is a great runner. How come we can't mirror these things, mesh them in? What has happened to this run game? Sure, it shouldn't be functioning at the same level as last year, but it shouldn't be this. You should be able to be up 21 against a Dallas Cowboys defense and put them into the meat grinder and basically choke them out. But you're getting hit in the backfield, and it's not just the players. I go to the coach because if guys are getting this many consistent TFLs with a runner like Saquon, clearly there's keys, clearly there's film prep going on where they know, they meaning the defense, can really run downhill and blow this thing up. Where is the rushes from Jalen Hurts? What is going on? You know, you sit there and it's like 1 step forward with A.J. Brown this week, 2 steps back with the offense. It's an awful loss across the board. I thought the defense did enough to win the game. They were on the field for the entire second half. You know, you keep an unbelievable offense, which Dallas is running right now, to 24 points. Stop it. Philadelphia, to me, is a team that should be rolling in and smoking teams. Smoking them. They are great on defense, and talent-wise, they are unbelievable on offense. Instead, you're getting these very poor performances, and they're letting teams hang around. The Cowboys finally got them. So to me, again, from an X and O standpoint, I just think there's no excuse to what's going on with that run game right now. Sure, they're not as electric as last year, but they should not be this bad, and that's my number one storyline that I'm going to be watching from here on out with regard to the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up, probably the craziest, and I got to be a bit sensitive talking about this because, you know, there's some health stuff going on here, but one of the coolest moments, not from the health side, just, again, I don't even know how to describe it, was this Noah Gray catch. And before we roll it, okay, the Chiefs, to me, in that fourth quarter, they're down double digits. They're playing the Colts for an absolute wagon. I'm looking at the math, and I'm like, my producers are asking me, like, hey, is this it? Are they out of the playoffs? We're going to go live on CTV soon. Like, what are you thinking? And I'm, like, having a hard time wrapping my head that the math just ain't mathing anymore. If they would have lost, like, sure, there's a small window they can get in, but they're going to need help, and they can't lose another one. And I'm like, holy smokes, the Chiefs might miss the playoffs. And you want to talk about magic. Mahomes was magic. Kelsey was magic. Rashee Rice was magic. The story that gets lost out of all this was Steve Spagnuolo in the defense forcing 3 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter. Jonathan Taylor was held to 58 rush yards. The defense was unbelievable. But to me, the craziest thing was this Noah Gray catch. We're going to watch this thing real quick, and we're going to get a couple different angles here. So it's 3rd and 8. You're kind of on the verge of getting into field goal range. He catches this thing, which gives us a 4th down opportunity. Wait for it. So watch the ball. Bam, bam, bam. It never hits the ground, but when you check this out from the other view here, when Noah Gray hits the ground, he actually goes unconscious. You see how his arms aren't even trying, and they had to come on there, and everyone was pulling him out? He's knocked out. Look at him. My guy sat there. You want to talk about, like, there's something magical about teams. Patrick Mahomes threw this man the football on a 3rd and 8, which, again, led to a 4th and manageable. Goes up, catches it, gets kind of juggled as it's getting knocked out. He lands, his head hits the ground, complete unconscious, and the ball rolls around. At one point, it's in his knee, it's under his arm, and never touches the ground. I don't know. I thought that was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. So just wanted to go over it on the pod. Noah Gray might be the first guy ever to catch a ball while unconscious. Pretty cool stat. Okay, and now it's time to bring in this week's guest. He was actually a star basketball player in high school and in college. He turned himself into an all-pro in the NFL. Yes, you heard that right. Basketball player in high school and in college. We're going to get into this. All-pro in the NFL. He's got the 4th most touchdowns by a tight end in NFL history. This guy was dunking on goalposts so hard he bent one of them, and I should say so hard and so often. He bent one of them, and the league literally made it a penalty so that they could stop this guy from doing it. But honestly, this is just where it begins with this guy. He flies his own planes, and I'm not just talking, he does just have like seaplane chilling, but like he also does stunt plane stuff. He's rode in the Arctic Ocean. He races cars in Europe, which is way over my head. I can't even explain that. Not my jam right now. I like to refer to him as the world's most interesting man, the actual Dos Equis man. He's also a very good friend of mine. His name is Jimmy Graham. JG, my guy, first and foremost, man, thank you for joining Film Never Lies. It's good to see you, man. How you been?
It's good to see you, man. It's been a while. It's been too long for us. Too long.
It's been too long, but I'm sure once football season's over, we'll link up. Now, listen, I want to get in because I've been telling everybody, even off camera, that you're the most interesting man in the world. And we're going to get into some of this stuff, man. I also want to hear about the cars, okay, the car races. You got to. But first, I want to talk a little bit about your journey, because what's crazy is when people think of you, they think of, man, slam dunks, the touchdowns. I mean, you had a penalty, and we're going to get into this. You have a penalty in the NFL for celebrations because of you that it's, again, we banned slamming the football through the goalpost. But before we get into that, dude, not enough people understand. You were Mr. Basketball in the state of North Carolina in high school and played 1 year of college football at Miami. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, I was the number one player in North Carolina coming out, and the football team came and asked me because I was fouling out every game. Uh, uh,
So you go to Miami and you have not planning on playing any football.
No, not at all. I was kind of like in a really big high school as far as like sports goes, basketball specifically. And so, I was nationally ranked. Everybody thought that I had the NBA pedigree. So I was always thinking playing professional basketball. And then basically got to college because I was more of like a 3-4, and they turned me into like a 4-5 just because I was aggressive and strong, and they needed some help like down low. But that's really doesn't translate to the NBA when you're 6'7". So I had some money overseas. I had like 9 tryouts in the NBA, and then the University of Miami came to me, offered me a scholarship to go back, go to grad school, and try football. So I said, all right, and literally walked on the field August, and 6 months later, I got drafted in the third round.
Yeah. Drafted 6 months later, no bigs. We're gonna get into that. Can you talk about your first few days with equipment on? And this is no disrespect to basketball, but you definitely are going to be a guy because you played the game very physical, smacking boys.
Yeah.
It's a different beast. Like, what was your first experience like playing football at Miami?
Oh, no, it's a completely different beast. Basketball, they really take care of us. I'm like, especially in the weight room. I mean, I was always a weight room guy from basketball. I was kind of just, I just wanted to jump as high as I could, be as ripped as I could in college. And then like, when I went over, the amount of weights we were lifting, I couldn't believe it. Like I remember, I picked up some like 50 to do like shoulder press, and our weightlifting coach looks at me and he looks me up and down with no like what are your weights on bench? She's like, yeah, you look more like an 85s guy. And just I'm like, what? Just like
That's a calling strength coach to a team.
yes. So the weights were crazy, but I'll never forget going out August, and I'm wearing all these pads, and we're down in Miami, so it is absolutely blazing hot. And the first thing I say is like, where is the AC out? Like, why are we outside in this? This should be illegal. I mean, it was so hot. I was like drenching sweat. And then I remember I ran like a shallow cross. Now I know, obviously, if it's zone, you sit down. But but when you don't know that, so I'm running shallow cross across the Mike linebacker's face, and he just decleats me. And I'm looking around for the penalty or the foul. I thought it was. I was like, is that legal? Like, I didn't even have the ball. There were so many things that I had to figure out and learn so quickly, just because, I played 1 year, my freshman year of high school, I played defensive end. And, I just didn't understand any of those rules at all.
So now, from there, Jimmy, was it surreal when you mentioned getting drafted in the third round?
Yeah.
So you play 1 year of college football, and you're a third round pick, and you're strolling to New Orleans. Like, can you give me, were there any like pinch me moments at that point where you're like, bro, like I'm here, Drew Brees,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
like how was that transition?
dude, I had so many pinching moments. Well, even before I got drafted, I get a letter in the mail that I've been invited to the Senior Bowl, and which is the All-Star game. But I'm thinking, like I'm like third on the bench. Why am I going to an All-Star game? And and then I get another letter that I'm invited to the combine. Again, I'm like the third backup. Why is this happening? And then I realize there's a lot of college coaches that want to see me up close because they hear that I'm 6'7", 260, and I can run and jump. So all training for all that, going to all that was nuts. But my first kind of pinch me moment was, well, there's two. One, I remember walking into the locker room of New Orleans. They just won the Super Bowl. So just 2 months before, they had the big parade down in Miami. And I remember turning the corner and I saw Reggie Bush's locker. And it's like if you
Oh
watch
yeah.
any bit of college football, he was just one of the greatest college players ever. And I look up on his little deal, and it's like, I know he's married now, but it was back when he was dating Kim Kardashian. So he dude, there was like a little photo booth picture there of Kim K and Reggie Bush, and I'm looking around like, what planet am I living on, man? Like I felt like I just got dropped into some TV show all of a sudden, man. It was just nuts. And then kind of my first moment. I remember Jeremy Shockey. He's having kind of well. First, I was the rookie for Jeremy Shockey, so that lets
Oh,
you know.
I can only imagine what that was like.
Yeah. I mean, he's such a rare human being. And just like, one day I'm his best friend because I went to the U. Then the next day I'm like his part-time slave. So, there was there was just a lot going on. But I remember he was out of practice. So they pulled me up to the ones. And I still really don't understand the rules. I don't, our playbook, Sean Payton's playbook's like 800 pages. And so I remember getting to the huddle and I'd never been in a huddle with him. So he gets down on one knee. There's Reggie Bush, the best O-line in football, Lance Moore, Devery Henderson, uh, Marcus Colson. I mean, it's
I
just an
was
all-star
waiting. I
team.
was like, Colson's
Yeah,
got to
oh,
be
no,
coming
no,
out
no, no,
soon.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. Colson taught me everything. So we're sitting there, and he goes down on one knee, and he says the play. It's the fastest I've ever heard anybody even read it off. And I'm literally everybody breaks the huddle, on one breaks, and I'm just standing there with my eyes open like like what did you just say and he used to call me Avatar he said listen just run a 10-yard out and just get open so I just like got down, ran 10 yards, left some dude and scored a touchdown. So that's kind of how yeah.
Well, we're going to come back to that line here in a sec because I want to ask a few questions, but let me ask this. Fast forward a bit, Jimmy. So you go from that where you're just like, Drew's like, yo, run 10 yards and go score a touchdown.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize, like, man, I'm a guy in this league? I'm a guy in this league. Not a, like, hey, I'm coming in as Shockey's part-time slave.
Yeah.
I'm a, like, teams are circling the playbook. Like, this guy is a problem.
Yeah. Well, like I had some great opportunities my rookie year. I guess my biggest moment of my rookie year was we were in Atlanta, and it was at the very end of the season. We needed this win to go to the playoffs. We're on probably 3-4 yard line, and then Sean Payton calls a timeout. We get to the sideline. Mind you, I'm already on the sideline, obviously. So I go in the huddle, and Sean Payton asks Drew. He's like, "Hey man, what do you want to do here?" And he says, I want to throw it to the big kid. And I'm thinking, who's this big? I'm thinking, who's the big kid? And all of a sudden, everybody looks at me, and I'm like, oh shit, that's me.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Don't worry.
Yeah. So sure enough, we get out. I'm like 2 yards outside the numbers, and I run a quick slant, score. Some dude like floats across my face as I'm scoring, and so we go to the playoffs. So that was kind of the first moment there, but. So right after the season, Jeremy Shockey comes to my house. We have dinner, and Jeremy Shockey tells me, he's like, listen, I'm not going to be here next year. This is going to be your team moving forward. And at that point, I had never really played more than 30 or 40 snaps in a game.
This is what's crazy, man. People don't understand this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm in the most diverse offense in all of football. I'm playing the X, I'm playing the Z, I'm playing the F, I'm playing the Y. If Marcus Colson goes down, I back him up. So I would just immediately move into the F receiver position. So it's all just kind of, okay, I need to really fully learn this. But then we had the lockout. So we didn't have any off season. There was no off-season training. There was no OTAs. There's no mini camp. There's nothing. So I basically had to work out, be in that playbook, and then come to training camp ready to start. 16 games. So it was crazy, man.
Bro, that story too. I don't know if you're a little Giants fan, but it reminded me of, like, the guy comes in, pitch to Johnny. I'm Johnny.
No, seriously. No, I swear it was bad.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But
now,
I would say,
yes,
go ahead.
Yeah. So I would say, so my second year, most of it was kind of a blur, just because there were so many things going on. I remember that was the year that me and Gronk were in the race for most yardage for a tight end ever. I think I ended up with like 1,200 some yards that year, and kind of the first
casual
moment
1,200, casual 1,200.
Yeah. No, seriously, no. The first inkling that I got that things were getting kind of weird. I forget what team it was, but one of my boys I went to college with was playing defense on a team we're about to play. And apparently, up in their defensive meeting room, they threw up my jersey and they said, if we stop this kid, we're going to win the game. So
Yeah,
that was, yeah, so that was my first inkling. Like, oh, like people know about me. People are like game planning for me. I started getting doubled in the red zone, and then I really had to dive into learning more just so I could understand where and when I'm open,
totally. So is there, and this is something that, unfortunately for me, I never had the experience of having. But in 2011, you were a second team All Pro. In
Yeah.
2013, you were a first team All Pro.
Mhm.
Is there ever a moment in there, Jimmy, where I know it's like you said, it's fast, it's a blur. In Sean Payton's offense,
Mhm.
life's moving at 1,000 miles an hour. You're
Right.
flying planes, which we're gonna get into in a sec. Okay, is there ever a moment where you're like, damn, man, like I came from Mr. Number one player in North Carolina,
Yeah.
1 year of college football, to and you and me both know the Pro Bowl to me is like, okay, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
The All Pro as a player is
Yeah.
the thing you look at like, you can never take this away from me.
Yeah.
Is there ever a moment, at least while you were playing, where you're like, bro, I'm a first team All Pro tight end in the NFL. I am one of the best players on planet Earth. Or is that
Yeah.
just like, no, what's next? What's the JG mentality there?
Um, man, I always set like when I set goals, I always tell kids that I mentor, I'm always like, listen, you got to shoot for the stars. Set your goals so high they're almost unattainable, and if you fall short, then you're going to be in the clouds. Either way, you're going to be moving forward and doing special things. So for me, I was so focused because the year that I got there, the Saints won the Super Bowl. So that's all we ever talked about was getting back to the Super Bowl. That's all we ever talked about, how the regular season is what's going to translate and get us home games to win the Super Bowl. And so really my whole focus was on winning games, man. And the biggest thing like I could really focus on is I never wanted to disappoint Drew Brees, I mean, he was so he had so many accolades, he had done so much and he was such a leader for us that every time that ball was in the air, man, I felt like, I got to put my soul on the line for him and for the city. So, most of it was I was just terrified to disappoint him. I was terrified to disappoint Sean Payton because, I no, seriously, because
I know this. I love it.
dude, because like they believed in me when so many people doubted me. I remember when I first got on the team, a lot of the staff, a lot of the players at the time, they were disappointed that they went and drafted a tight end. They're like, why are we drafting a tight end when we have Jeremy Shockey? And this kid has no idea how to play football. I didn't know what cover two, cover one was. I didn't know where hash plus two, like I remember, dude, like I remember they used to hold up the cards for like, the rookie practice squad, and I'm looking and none of that I understood. I'd never seen it before. So I just seemed like I was an idiot at first, but I caught on pretty quick.
Yeah, you're definitely not an idiot. So I got a couple more football questions, then
Yeah,
I got to get into the fun stuff.
yeah,
So I want to talk about your transition to Seattle.
yeah,
And obviously something more like, for me, on a non-football note, one of the coolest things ever, because
yeah,
I mentioned in the intro, like off the camera, one of my best, closest
yeah.
friends. But how was that going from New Orleans to Seattle?
Oh man, it was for me one of probably the hardest year of my life. We at the time, I just been paid. I just been made the highest paid to ever live.
Paid,
Yeah,
paid.
yeah. So I officially secured the bag. So I was looking at houses in New Orleans, and I had so much charity stuff set up, kind of in the South in New Orleans, all through North Carolina and Florida. Where once I got traded, I had to travel back to the East Coast every weekend after workouts and 6.5 hours to Miami or to DC or to New Orleans, man, and it just beats up on you. Um, and then obviously, I lost somebody very close to me during the summer. 3 months later, and then the worst part, obviously, 3 months later, I blew my knee out. So I'm sitting there in Seattle with this unbelievable team. With like one of the coolest dudes I've ever played with in my entire life. He's like a brother to me, obviously, and then obviously our defense, the Legion of Boom, man. And I just felt like we could go right back to Super Bowl. We could make this run, and to not be on that field for those last six were tough for me for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier, I'm bringing it back here, Jimmy.
Yeah,
You said when your early days, Drew Brees was like, yo, run 10 yards and get open. You said you just
mm,
left some dude in the dust, scored a touchdown. So
yeah,
One of the things for the viewers and the listeners right now that I found was wildly fascinating watching you those first few days in Seattle, and really even when you're back from the knee as
Yeah.
well. And we just rolled a couple catches you made that were just ridiculous. You know, the league in the NFL is filled with freaks. You know, everybody is an athlete. At least everybody that's stepping on the field is like
Yeah.
special, you know, world class. But then there's always the few guys, and not even, I would say some teams don't even have one, that are just like the freaks amongst the freaks.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize, like, hey, I can just run 10 yards and leave some dude in the dust? Like, there's no chance here. Again, producer Rob's going to roll a couple of these clips here again. I want the people to see him again. Like, some of the stuff I witnessed you do, I remember the game against Buffalo. We got a lot of Buffalo fans up here that remember this.
Yeah.
And it was just like a man amongst boys in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, was there a time in your career where you're like, I'm like that, I'm him?
You know, my kind of moment where I realized that I was maybe built a little different was actually before I even got drafted. Ended up being at the combine. So, you know, we go to the combine and it's, you know, our draft was so deep with tight ends, you know, Jermaine Gresham, Pitta, Gronkowski, Hernandez, Milwaukee, like a ton of guys got drafted. So I'm sitting there with them running routes, running the 40, jumping and stuff. And I remember after we went through the gauntlet, my like agent was like, Jimmy, just run as fast as you can through the gauntlet. Let everybody see that you can catch and run. I was like, all right. So, you know, like, you know, most guys are kind of like tippy-toeing through it, but I just ran as fast as I could, caught them all and just turned up. And then we started doing routes. So I ran like a seam and a corner. And because of our names, Jermaine Gresham and Jimmy Graham, Gresham was behind me. I remember after like the third route, Jermaine Gresham, you know, he comes up to me and he was like, bro, where did they build you at? And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? He was like, dude, like, I've never heard of you before. And you were looking like a Megatron out here, dude. What is going on? And he was asking me where I came from, how I got to the because he knew nothing, because I'd barely played football. And I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm just a basketball player. And he was just like shaking his head. And I realized, I was like, oh, I am like bigger, faster, and stronger than every one of these guys here. And you know, Jermaine Gresham ended up being, you know, first round pick.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty confident as far as my athleticism. I just knew mentally I had to figure out what these rules were.
Yeah, must be nice, you prick. Dude, so we're gonna transition here, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Again, and I mean this sincerely.
Yeah.
To me, you have outdone the Dos Equis, man, dude. You're the most interesting man on planet Earth.
Oh,
So we're gonna
boy.
pivot, and I want to tell this personal story here.
Yeah.
You know, in the NFL, I would not say this is Jimmy whatsoever, but there are a lot of times where there are guys that are a bit showy when it comes to cars. You know, so cars come in, the parking lot, I used to tell when I was talking to my boys back home, like my rookie year, like, man, you should see our parking lot, like Lambos, Rolls Royces showing up. So Jimmy gets to town, and it's like, as you mentioned, you're the highest paid tight end, you know, and I always kind of wonder, like, is Jimmy a car guy? Like, what's Jimmy going to show up to the facility with? I will never forget the day when I'm sitting there and they're like, bro, you see that plane over there? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, Jimmy's coming in today. And I'm like, what you talking about? So for those of you who don't know, Seattle practices in Renton, Washington. It's right on Lake Washington. My guy flies planes and would pull up to practice while we're all driving in. He would land his seaplane on the water, rope that thing on the docks, and then just walk into the facility. It was, in the plane, I'm going to get it wrong. So tell me about that plane specifically, and then where did the flying thing come in? And please, Jimmy, get into the stuff. This isn't even, you might say, oh, he's flying seaplanes. My guy's pulling G-forces, doing stunts with a stunt plane. Just the floor is yours, man. Explain this to me.
Oh man, so that was it's called a DHC-2, so it's a de Havilland Beaver.
Okay.
Yeah, and so actually, my first week on the job, that's when John Nordstrom came in, and John Nordstrom, he walks around the corner. And he's like, "Hey, I hear you're a pilot. Have you ever flown a seaplane?" I was like, "No, I've been waiting to go to Jack Brown, which is down here in the South." And he was like, "Well, I flew in today." let's go fly. So my first week in Seattle, unbelievable. I go in with John Nordstrom, end up flying over his house, fly over the city, and I basically was like, I'll do whatever it takes to do this. The next weekend, after we got done with workouts, I went and got my seaplane license. And then I bought that seaplane from a junkyard out of Canada, actually. After,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So after Vietnam, it had gone to like a hunting fishing lodge in Canada and spent the rest of his life there. And then it ended up in this kind of junkyard. So I bought it out of this junkyard and it got delivered from Canada at the top of Lake to Kenmore. So, shout out to the greatest bush and seaplane ever is from Canada.
I love that.
There is not a better plane for flying bush, for flying seaplanes, or for landing on glaciers. Because I've landed on, I have skis for mine as well. So
Bro, I
it's
was gonna say, like, I know it's another day, random day for you, but I remember one time you're like, bro, let's go flying day. It was an off day for us. I'm like, all right, like, So we go up there, and I kid you not. Again, if you're listening to this, I kid you not. I got the photo. If you're on a pod, turn this part on to YouTube. I got the photo. You're like, man, I really like this island over here. It's not like a legitimate island. It's just like a little piece of land. I'm like, what do you mean you really like this? Like, yeah, bro, I just be out here. Set up. What's the little thing you hang to lay in? The
I've got
hammock.
yeah. I've got a hammock that hangs from both wings to the fuselage. So you
Yeah.
like sit over you can sleep over the water like on the weekends and stuff. It's pretty cool.
And you and me are just out there. You set both the hammocks up. You're like, I'm just gonna, hey, bro, bring a book. And you're chilling on some remote island that has literally nobody on it. And I'm like, this is kind of a nice way to spend an off day. We
Well,
pulled in somewhere else for lunch. You're like, bro, let's go get some lunch now. Fire the plane back up.
I mean, dude, that's what's so great about, I mean, honestly, Canada and the US is the flying is unbelievable. They have great infrastructure for it. They're really inviting, in a lot of countries, you can't do this. But here in the US and in Canada, they have it all routed out and you can read a bunch of books and meet a bunch of pilots and learn where you can and can't go. But I actually just spent the last weekend down between Palm Beach and the Florida Keys. I was flying this thing called a H-145, which is an Airbus helicopter, $12.5 million. And I went to school last month for it. So I filled in for a pilot, and we were running people on and off of this guy's private dock from Palm Beach. So it's a I've got basically I always wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was a kid. And once I got to high school and I got past 6'4", I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I just started dunking on people. And so my rookie year, like when your rookie year, like right after your rookie year, for all of us, it's the first time we actually have time off, and it's the first time we have money. So
Yes.
usually a coach like Sean Payton, I'll never forget it. We end up losing the playoffs, and he comes into the team and he's like, "Listen, boys, you are off until April 18th." He's like, one, stay in shape, and two, don't get arrested. And that's basically yeah. And,
What a line, dude.
yeah.
2 things you gotta do.
Yeah. So like most guys go back to their city and it's the first time you've actually not like had anybody over top of you ever because from high school to college.
Yes.
I mean, if you made it to the league, you most likely started playing sports as a very young kid. You sacrificed most of your time for it. So most guys, they kind of they go on vacation, they go chase, and they go out partying and stuff like that. Well, literally a week before that, Jeremy Shockey told me, "Hey, you're going to be the starter next year." I still don't know how to play football. I still don't understand the rules. Like all the rules, there's like too many of them at the time, and all our playbooks. So I basically went to flight school, and I did that for 10 straight years of my career. That's how I ended up having 10 licenses. And so yes. So right now I got 4 planes. I've got the seaplane. I've got the UH-1H, which is a Vietnam Huey. And then I've got it's called a turbo commander. So it's a twin turbo prop, goes 300 knots. I fly that everywhere. I just got back. No, it's like
I know, dude, but
yeah.
it's funny because, and I'm used to this, you speak about it so casually, because it is part of like, and I'm not making this up for, again, people listening, it's just part of your like fabric, your DNA, like your everyday life.
Yeah,
but for like
yeah.
everyone else, it's like mind blowing. You're like, wait, you got 4 planes?
Yeah,
My
no,
guy,
no.
this is a true story, man. My guy came in. I got to brag on you, man.
Yeah, I
I'm
appreciate
living in Seattle.
this is after I'm retired, and I'm like, yo, Jimmy, you like tennis? Like, I got invited to the, I believe it was the Indian Wells Open.
Yeah, Indian Wells.
Indian Wells Open, and you're like, yeah, I like tennis. I'm like, any chance you're in Cali? You're like, no, man, but I like tennis. I'll come by. You just got in your plane and flew from Miami to Cali, and we watched the tennis thing in the suite. And I'm like, yo, and you brought your bike. We comes out of the bike. I think a producer, Rob, just showed a clip of it, puts the bike in the old plane. We watched the tennis match, and the next day we climbed up Box Canyon and went into Joshua Tree on our bikes.
Bro, that was probably one of the greatest climbs and descents I've ever been on. Dude, we were like, I don't know how fast we were going down in the rain, but dude, it was ballistic.
Yes. Well, we got a couple photos of that as well here.
It was ballistic, man. But yeah, man, you like flying has kind of become just part of my everyday life. You know, I'm a big advocate for aviation. I'm chairman of something called Young Eagles, which we've flown 2.5 million kids for free through EAA, which is the largest nonprofit in all of aviation. And it's funny because I became the chairman of this program. Before me, it was Harrison Ford, and before him, it was Sully who landed in the Hudson. And you know, they got this like this football idiot. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. But so you know, I've got some pretty big shoes to fill there, but then I'm also the commander of the F-16 Makos down here at Homestead. That's how I ended up flying the F-16 a couple years back, which is really cool. And then last week in the Turbo Commander, I did aid relief in Jamaica after the big hurricane. You know, so you know my foundation down here in South Florida. Well, like with this really cool organization, it's called Operation Airdrop. They're out of Texas. I met them at an air show, and so they hit me up and said, "Hey, we're going to be in Miami." So you know, between all the pilots down here, myself and Operation Airdrop, we ended up delivering 111,000 pounds of food down there in Jamaica. So you know, big shout out to them and just all the pilots and everybody who you know gave their time and money to serve people going through a lot. So yeah, man, that's
awesome.
basically what I do now is just fly and try to make money.
Yeah, and race cars. We got to bring you back for the car racing, the cycling, and also we got to talk to the Arctic Row. But Jimmy, I can't thank you enough for coming on here, man. I got to end with one question. We're gonna go back to football. You know, one of the cool things for you is you went from Drew Brees to Russell Wilson to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask right now, and I think I know the answer. But if it's 4th and goal, let's call it from the 3. Game on the line. We split you out wide and we're running the fade ball. The fade ball. Nothing else. Who do you want throwing you the rock?
I mean, obviously all of them are going to the Hall of Fame. You know, I mean, I was blessed to be able to play with all of them. But you know, I've got 52 of those bad boys with Drew Brees. So you know what I'm saying? Like
52 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, a casual 52 too. A casual.
Hey, no. 52 in 5 years, man. If we would have had another 5, you know, it'd probably been 130. So, but that's how it is, you know. But I got something to say. One, man, you were truly my favorite teammate, man. You know, it was an absolute honor. You know, to be in the room, to be on that field with you, you know, all the coaches and players that we find and people who didn't pay up and got their car booted, you know, those are moments that I'll never forget, man. You know, and just, I was like, we did a lot of antics, and like through me blowing my knee out, man, you were such a big part of just me coming into work and just loving every minute of it, man. You know, I've never had a room like that where, you know, we were just control chaos. You know, the Bash Brothers just going out there, just smacking fools. And so how about so when we do part 2 of this, let's do part 2 of this in Miami in my hangar. We're gonna video and mic up in some of the race cars. I'm gonna take you up and do aerobatics. We'll do helicopter. We'll do all the stuff. And then we'll go to my boys' ranch and we'll shoot out of a helicopter. So let's do all that and do the podcast whenever you're in town. All right, I got you.
Twist my arm, Jimmy. Twist my arm, bro.
And I'm putting you on a new sailboat. I can't wait to show you this thing, man. It's an absolute beast. It's a beast.
Can't wait.
Man. It's a beast. It's a beast.
JG, unbelievable seeing you. Can't wait to be down on the part 2 of this podcast now. And thank you again for coming on Film Never Lies.
And with that, we've got to get into it now. we've got to get into the top 5. Okay, the top 5 comes from, and this is going to be an elongated top 5. We lost out on our top 5 last week. That's on me. I got to apologize. I got explanations, but there was an interview by Shedeur Sanders, and before we roll it, and it gave me what I believe the young kids call the ick. Okay, you just get grossed out. That's what I think of the ick. Hopefully my young kid slang is up to date right now. I want to preface this by saying I like Shedeur Sanders. I thought he should have been drafted higher. I think he's unfairly criticized right now. I like him on the field. I like some of the stuff he does off the field, but right now, coming in at my number 5 top 5 icks are Shedeur Sanders interviews. Like, this is wildly cringe to me. We're going to go both his pre and his post game here. Check this out. We're going to talk about it real quick.
And what do you hope to show against this Raiders defense, your teammates, yourself, and these Browns fans with their play today?
I'm who they've been looking for. Appreciate it. Man, a win is crazy. It's amazing, you know, off of 1 week of practice, you know what I mean? This 1 week of practice. So imagine, you know, what a full offseason look like. It get dangerous, but it's just a 1 week of practice. So I'm just truly thankful, you know, that everything happened.
Again, I actually really like Shedeur. I thought he should have been drafted way higher. I think he's unfairly criticized. I really like the guy as a player, and I like some of his off-the-field stuff. But they don't get much more cringe for me personally. Again, this is a personal top 5. First off, the pregame stuff, that's not a real thing. I know we're playing into the storyline. Third-string quarterbacks that are drafted as late as him, they do not get practice reps like that. Maybe some scout team stuff. You'll never have them in with the ones. Like, come on. This is very, very status quo across every single NFL team. So I can't stand that he's trying to play up to that narrative. The stare in the camera afterwards, I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. And then we talk about post-game, and I believe he was named starter after this, so good for him. I'm excited. Again, I love that for the guy. I'm a fan. But these interviews are just brutal for me to listen to. Like, crazy getting a win. The Raiders are an absolute fire sale. I feel bad for Pete Carroll, my guy. He just fired Chip Kelly. I think they fired their special teams coach a week or so ago. Geno has struggled. He has no weapons around him outside of the young tight end. You have an unbelievable defense, You won 11 for 20. You threw for 209 yards, and a 66-yard touchdown was to a swing pass to a running back with literally no reads, just going through your progression where he went untouched for 66. That being said, I liked the overall work of body of Shedeur, but to come on here and have these interviews and say things like that, I just think it's so forced. It's top cringe for me. It inspired my list this week, and that's number 5. Number 4, kind of going back and piggybacking off what the Eagles happened. To me, it's offensive play calling, bad offensive play calling. Okay, Kevin Patullo right now, I find it's just a bit of a mess. And again, we're not going to beat this dead horse much more, but there's also no flow to it. As I've started coaching at the youth level, I watch a lot of college football. I watched a crazy amount of CFL, and I've always watched a lot of NFL stuff. You hear the saying, especially in the NFL, oftentimes the organizations fail a quarterback before quarterbacks fail an organization. To me, it just gives me the ick when I see guys in bad situations, and you're like, oh, what's the matter? And as a fan, you want to point at the player. And I looked, and I'm like, he's not giving a real shot here. He's not given an opportunity to succeed. Prime example, George Pickens, DK Metcalf right now. You know, you look at DK Metcalf, there's no way that he's this much worse than George Pickens. And you look at George Pickens when he was in DK Metcalf's shoes in Pittsburgh, this is a prime thing where I'm saying, like, oh, people want to say DK's got some issues, you know, and they said that about George Pickens. And now there's talk. I'm not in this camp yet, but there's talk. I saw Dan Orlovsky mentioning this, a guy that I really look up to as far as his ability to be on screen, talking about how he thinks George Pickens might be the best receiver in football. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was talking about George Pickens in that light while he was in Pittsburgh. So when I say it gives me the ick, is there's so many situations, Philadelphia's one right now, where guys will sit there and it's like, oh, the player's fault. No, they're getting jammed up by their play calls. It's an epidemic, really. And I'll say this, again, I got to be very sensitive, and I'm going on a bit of a rant right now, but the CFL, to me, it's an epidemic. And part of what happens in both the NFL and the CFL is that coaching becomes insular. In the CFL, there's 7, I think, of the 9 coaches. Now, obviously, there's a carousel going on right now, had played in the CFL before, many of which were quarterbacks. So they all kind of experience similar offenses. At least in the NFL, you'll get guys that are from different trees, where I find the CFL gets even tighter than the NFL because of the fact that there's smaller team amount, et cetera, and some of the play calling, I just want to puke. I'm like, oh my God, in both leagues. But then what happens, I find it's accentuated in the CFL because there's similar offenses across the board. So that's a huge ick for me. Bad offensive play calling, again, partially biased because I'm an ex-player. It trickles downhill, it gets falsely blamed on players, drives me absolutely insane. That's coming in at number 4. Number 3, we're going to stick to the CFL, and we're going to go with clueless CFL reporters. So you talk about the CFL, the narrative that surrounds the CFL, and I think outside of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, the narrative is very, very tough in a lot of places, especially in Ontario. You know, I'm not going to get into this whole thing right now. We do have a CFL podcast coming up. It's going to be electric. Wait till that bad boy drops. But what I'll say is, you know, a lot of fans online want to push, like, the CFL needs better marketing, better promoting. And I always like to push back, being like, what does that mean? And you'll get these old grumpy boomers that are like, the guys should be going to the schools more often. And I just giggle. And I'm like, it's not a bad idea, don't get me wrong, but the idea that showing up at schools is just going to all of a sudden magically change the narrative of the CFL is ridiculous. But you want to talk about promoting and marketing and these things. Part of what drives me nuts, gives me the ick, is there's a very, very large amount of reporters that, quite frankly, I don't think are qualified to even be talking about football, let alone a pro football league. I was getting into it with a guy from Winnipeg the other day, and I'm like, this guy has no idea. One of these Winnipeg guys online did an article griping about the new rule changes. It was one of the most biased garbage articles I've ever read, and he's quoting fans from a bar. He's quoting fans from a f***ing bar in an article. Like, what on earth? You want to talk about promoting the game? Like, you think about reporters and some of the things that happens. Let's go south of the border and just kind of the weight that some of these guys can write with and talk with the game. We have very few of those things going on for the CFL. And I'll say this, I think it's a numbers game for some of these big, you know, media companies where it's like, hey, why would we put one of our more talented people on the CFL? Because there's really no bang for our buck there. So that's the thing that drives me the ick, is when you get these guys that are just clueless, and it's not just, you know, major news. There's some other minor operations where I'll read some of the stuff and I'll think to myself, like, the foundation of where this individual is coming from is so fundamentally flawed. They have no idea what they're talking about. I don't think they did their homework. They didn't prep. They're just out here rolling out an article, and they have a platform. And it hurts the league. It hurts the players. And it gives me the ick. So that's number 3. Clueless CFL reporters. Drives me nuts. And writers, I should say. Reporters and writers. Number 2, we're sticking with football, is the misuse of timeouts. Nothing drives me crazier than misusing your timeouts in a football game. And I'll start with my experience in the NFL. Okay, every Wednesday, Thursday, base day and third down day, we would have a walkthrough, what I called a jog-through practice before the practice. Generally lasts about an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes. Okay? We would do a situation for both offense and defense. 2 situations, somewhat structured. Pete would just kind of drop it on us. Hey, we're on the 37-yard line. It's the end of the half. We're down 10 points. We want to score or end with the ball. We have 1 timeout. Our OC gets put in the spot. Everybody's hands on deck. We're going the huddle. We understand what we're trying to accomplish. Our rules were at the end of a half, score or end with the ball. At the end of a game, obviously, it's get as many points, whether it's to tie, whether it's to go ahead and win, you know, based on timing. Hey, we could have all 3 timeouts. He would make a different situation up every single week. Okay? And the defense would do the same thing. You know, how to call defenses, what they should potentially do. We were prepped and ready to use our timeouts, have our play calls kind of mirror how many timeouts we have, understand the situation every single week. It's like we come out here and guys leave timeouts on the board or they call them early. You know, you look at the Malik Neighbors tweet, which he deleted, talking about New York. He's mad about the other side of it, how in the 4-minute mode, when they're up, they should have been able to make the Lions use their timeouts, which they didn't. How does this happen? And again, I want to say this where it's like, if I'm a coach, err on the side of calling it. You can't take your timeouts into half. And I know some of the CFL fans are already mad about me talking about the reporters because you guys love to cry about everything. But we're going to go, one that's fresh on my mind, we're going to show this here, is the Calgary-BC game at the end of the half. And I love Coach Dickinson. I think he's the man. And I think part of this falls on Vernon Adams Jr. here. But you watch this. This was a crucial play that isn't talked about because we have bum reporters that will never actually bring things up like this. But we go, and in 17 seconds, and you go and you throw this, you scramble around, you're killing time here, burning daylight, you're in field goal range. And now the CFL, the clock stops. For NFL people are watching this, the clock stops, but it starts on the whistle blowing. But with the motion, those 8 seconds are crucial. So we should not snap this ball with anything less than 8 seconds, in my opinion, right now. Burn your timeout. Burn your timeout. The waggle goes, we snap it basically at 6, so 2 seconds go. We have no situational awareness here. We throw this, we catch it, which is even crazier. We then get held up. Great situational awareness on BC. Clock stops. You miss out on 3 points, and you go to the half of the timeout. Again, even for the point of calling the timeout there, get the boys in and talk little fresh reminders. Hey, don't scramble, throw it out of bounds. Worst case scenario, we end with a field goal shot here. I can't stand it. Again, I apologize to all the crybabies out there going to get sensitive. It happens in both leagues. This one was just fresh on my mind because Calgary should have won that game. Calgary should have won that game and been playing in the West Final, but they blew it over situational ball, not just there, but at the end of the game, too. Tough situation there for Calgary. Can't end. The timeout misusage gives me the ick. It's a crazy ordeal for me. Okay. And now we're going to number one. You know, I'm being a little vulnerable here. We're going non-sports here, and this is something that happened to me somewhat early. Let's call it a couple months ago. Okay, I'm sitting there having a come to Jesus moment. I'm like, man, I'm 35 years old. Like, I'd like to be married one day. So I decided to fire up this dating app. It's a bit of a strange dating app, not one of the more popular ones. But on this thing, you get like a little profile and you like click through. I'm not a big dating app guy, but I'm trying to be vulnerable, put myself out there. And I'm sitting there, and you go through like these profiles, and you know, for me, I don't have a ton of like good photos, but I'm like, so it's hard for me to curate my profile. But like some of these females that are on the site, I'm like, wow, these profiles they're majestic. Okay, but then I start noticing a common trend, which ends up as my number one ick here, which is skiing photos on your dating profile. You heard it correctly. Skiing, and I'll put snowboarding in there as well. On your dating profile, it was like every other click, every other profile. Bam, you're clicking through, skiing photo, boom, skiing photo, boom, skiing photo. So I'm going to, this thing like links to its Instagram. I'm like, why is everyone skiing? What am I missing out on? I'm not a big skier by means, but I didn't know this was such a popular trend. And then I see that almost nobody's actually skiing. And the helmet's on, like I wore a helmet for a living. It's not the best look, I'm just being honest. You got this helmet that reminds me of Toad from Mario Kart. Okay, it's just NPC behavior, non-player character for those who don't understand that lingo. And everyone's doing it. I'm letting you know right now, if you're out here and you're not into skiing heavily, please don't put a skiing profile photo up on any sort of dating apps. Don't think you're being original or cool. Literally, every other person has one. I couldn't get over it. And everyone is like this weird skiing photo pose. It drives topic for me. Skiing photos on your dating app profile is my number one topic currently. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Film Never Lies.